The classical period spanned from 1750 to 1820 and was known as the Age of Enlightenment. It was called classical because it was named after ancient classical Greek and Roman art. In the classical period, music and visual arts stressed balance and clarity and faith in the power of reason. In the classical period, you have a socioeconomic thing called the rise of the middle class. You were enlightened if you believed that reason, not custom or tradition, was the best guide for human conduct. And that rising middle class wants aristocratic pleasures, and this means music. They want to buy lessons, pianos, and go to concerts. Composers at this time are writing for a market, that rising middle class. Let's be clear about the terms classical versus classical period. In classical music, you have a supreme accomplishment of lasting appeal. And that's anything that is not rock, jazz, folk, or popular music. Characteristics of classical period are the contrast of mood between and within movements. For example, you could have upbeat, happy music and a sad quality just contained in one movement. The rhythm is flexible. There are many rhythmic patterns. The texture is mostly homophonic, but with frequent shifts, you will find some polyphonic music. The harmony element, the basso continuo, is gone. Now we have emphatic cadences. Dynamics, you have shades of dynamics, gradual dynamic changes. Remember crescendo and decrescendo. This is related to the development of the piano, which could do soft and loud sounds. Melodies are tuneful, singable, and easy to remember. That rising middle class likes this, so composers write for the market. You have an increase in the size of the orchestra from 10 to 30 now to 25 to 60. The form is ABA, that's still present, but new forms are emerging. You have theme and variations, sonata form, minuet and trio, and rondo form. At this time, Vienna becomes the music capital of the world, attracting the three composers we shall look at: Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. They go to Vienna to make their careers. It became such an attraction because of the leadership of Emperor Joseph II, who greatly helped create a culture in Austria that made it an attractive place to live. He promoted and enforced the elimination of the death penalty, freedom of the press, and elementary education was made mandatory. He steered the arts toward a Germanic tradition. So you see, leadership really does make a difference. Starting with the sonata form, this is one of the forms of the classical period, refers to a form of a single movement. It kind of looks like ABA with three main sections. We have exposition, development, and recapitulation. Note that the exposition is usually repeated in its entirety. In the development section, it is unstable harmonically, and the recapitulation or recap resolves all tension, returning with the theme heard in the exposition. All of this ends with a tag or tail known as the coda, where it may cadence several times. Do you remember the word cadence? A chord progression that signals the end of a piece or a movement. Our next form is theme and variations. You have a basic idea presented and then repeated over and over in different ways. Each repeat alters or varies the musical idea, and each variation is about the same length as the original idea. How you do that? You alter the melody, the harmony, rhythm, dynamics, timbre, or all of these. There is no contrasting B section. This is a way to keep that singable tune interesting for that rising middle class market. Our next new form is minuet and trio. This is a ternary form based upon a stately court dance from the Baroque. It's usually the third movement of symphonies and string quartets. The minuet portion was usually in a meter of 3, or 3 beats to a measure. The trio portion comes from the Baroque because it was usually played by 3 instruments. Now, classical composers kept the name trio, but more than 3 instruments played in their versions. And each ternary part is itself ternary, or ABA. In the minuet and trio, you have return of the minuet. It's usually marked as da capo, or returning to the beginning, the head. In rondo form, you have a tuneful main theme which returns over and over. It's lively, pleasing, and easy to remember. The main theme alternates with contrasting sections, and your common rondo patterns are listed there, ABA-CA and ABA-CABA.